Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone, today we'll talk about artificial intelligence and ethics. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad to see you here. I'm Mazor, Kario, innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And my guest today, I'm so happy to have Alf Rehn.
Hi, pleasure to be here.
Great to see you, Alf. Alf is a professor of innovation design and management at the Faculty of Engineering, University of Southern Denmark.
Indeed I am.
Yeah.
Indeed I am.
Yeah, and we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're much invited to join the discussion and ask questions. So I'd love to hear what you think. I'll start with a very general question, but I have to ask you. As a professor of innovation, what do you believe is preventing companies from successful innovation?
Oh Christ! How many hours do we have? Because I
it's
could
just
talk about it.
The first question.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I could talk about this for 24 hours without really that many breaks. I think the main problem right now is that we've made innovation into this magnificent, radiant, iconic concept. We kind of have our love for innovation has created this almost unattainable desire for something that we call innovation, and then we communicate through a number of almost kind of pornographic images, as in we talk about our Elon Musk's, we talk about the iPhone, we kind of talk about these great shiny things, and by doing so we create this notion that innovation is something terribly difficult and incredibly large and has to generate hundreds of millions, if not billions, of value. And then, because as I've worked quite a lot kind of down on the factory floor of innovation. Yeah. Down there, it doesn't look like that nice. I mean, it's not as shiny and it's not as lovely. And Elon Musk never comes and gives a rousing speech. Instead, it's kind of just working with your hands and trying stuff. And often they fail and you get miserable and depressed and still have to get up the following morning and try again. And that mismatch between how shiny it looks in magazines like Fast Company and Harvard Business Review and how messy and often kind of hard work it is down there on the floor. That's what I think the main problem is, that managers don't really understand that the magazines and the books and the fawning portraits of people like Steve Jobs, they are sort of fairy tales, and they're sort of they're fun and they can be inspirational. And I've kind of kidded around and said it's almost like pornography. We all know pornography is not sex. Real sex is messy and needs to be negotiated and all that. Pornography is this shiny, impossible picture. And in the same way, we have this innovation pornography in which we forget about the human connection and instead try to do this almost impossible thing.
Yeah, I think that they relate to it as magic, something that is like done this way, and they in many cases they don't expect it to be so like a process they need to do rigorously with hard work, and they don't expect that, and they want the results, but they don't want to have all the tension and resources to this kind of rigorous process. Actually, I totally understand what you're saying.
I've had a CEO of a Fortune 500 company that I was speaking at. I was keynoting one of their events, kind of introduced me by basically saying, "Oh, here is Professor Alf Rehn. He's going to give a keynote on this and this, and really help us forward with our innovation endeavors." And I'm kind of listening to them and go, does he believe I'm magic? I mean, I can give a good speech. I can say fun things, and I can sometimes even inspire people. But in 45 minutes, I'm not going to shift the entire innovation mindset of a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm afraid that simply cannot be done. But on some level, I think he believed that if I'm just inspiring enough, that would be more than a moment's kind of aha, and that would really kind of shift everyone's mindset. That's not how it works. I mean, the keynotes can be good. It's good to inspire people, and it's good to kind of give a bit of a razzmatazz to it. But the real work, just like, and I love kind of comparing to kind of real life, just like when you're first dating. The first date, you really go all out. You try to make it magical. It lasts maybe 2-3 hours, and you try to make everything perfect. That's very different from having a 7-year relationship. A 7-year relationship, you have to work with every day, even when you don't really feel like it. You have to kind of be open about your weaknesses and all that. So it's sort of the same dynamic.
Yeah, like you gave an example which is really in my mind currently. I'm listening to a podcast from Esther Perel. I don't know if you hear it, but it's about relationship, and she's like a counselor for a therapist for couples, and she talks a lot about how do we perceive what is a relationship or the beginning of a relationship, and then it's really hard work, and it's ups and downs like in business, and you need to work really, really hard on the way. And it's more than that. I think that what you say, like, we'll have this one iPhone and then we'll be like successful forever. No, it's like continuously doing it. And even if you had one very, very lucky product or service, it doesn't mean much, right? So you need to continue with it.
Yeah, I've compared it to, I mean, then a couple is in real problems when they say, oh, we're going to get a child and that will solve everything. And you listen and go, oh my God, these people are insane. And because obviously getting a child only adds to the problems. I mean, it's harder work, not easier work. I mean, it's wonderful. I have 3 kids. I love all of them. But I've never experienced them to be, oh, this solved something. No, it was another bundle of problems. And just the same way you hear companies go, oh, we just need one disruptive innovation. No. That's not how anything works. Yes, it changes stuff, and it can be really valuable and give you a lot of wonderful things. But you can't just go, okay, done. Now we can just sit here and wait.
Yeah. I think that seeing this is a process of ups and downs. It's like a roller coaster that you need to go through. It's something that is less appealing if you say it this way. Like, it's not like you're entering Disney and everything is great. The fact that you need to go through the ups and downs is less appealing to most people. I'm not blaming leaders for that.
No, of course not. And I mean, we all wish for kind of magic. I mean, I wish for magic. I want already by elves. I would love that. Sorry, I seem to.
There is something with the connection. I hope it will get
magic
back
as well, but magic isn't real.
Yeah, you're right. We wish.
No.
Yeah, we wish we had magic. I think that if you would have believed that in this one talk you will be so successful to change the entire company, I wish you could, but apparently it's really hard. So we're going to talk today more about AI. And, this is a buzzword we hear all the time when we're thinking about new technologies, disruptive technology, emerging technologies, so forth. The word AI, artificial intelligence, is always like out there. And I want to talk to you and to think together, how would that affect our lives when we use more of this technology and it gets more mature, actually?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had a certain interest in AI for a while, but I've recently kind of started work on a major project on AI and innovation, and particularly kind of a responsible AI and innovation, because a big foundation here in Denmark gave us quite a lot of money to kind of think about algorithms and democracy. Because I find that a lot of the time the AI debate is very polarized. on one hand, you have the evangelists, the people who say, oh, AI will solve everything and we will have magical things and nobody will have to have a boring job ever again. And then somehow it will all generate new, better jobs for everyone. They don't explain how, but somehow that'll happen.
Yeah, we cannot imagine even that would be the case.
Exactly. And they sound very nice and we all want to listen to them and we understand on some level that AI is really powerful. So we kind of go, oh, that's interesting. And then on the other hand, there are the doomsayers. So AI will eat everyone's job. There will be no jobs and we will have to have universal basic income and the real kind of money will only go to the 0.001% who will control all the algorithms. And then the AIs may become sentient and start deciding to have us humans as pets.
Yeah.
And I find it, and I can understand that as well. I'm a big fan of thinking things through. I think it's really important that we don't just kind of go, oh, this technology will save us and we don't need to think about consequences. But there's bizarrely little conversations in the middle of this. There are some, obviously, but I'm been struck by just how little the kind of critical debate about AI and the evangelist debate on AI actually meet. And my interest is sort of the following. I'm a big believer in technology and a big believer in progress. But I'm also a big believer in that good things come when we use technology in a responsible, considered fashion. We are partly, right now, we are on social media. We are on Facebook, I believe, and we're on YouTube, and we're on LinkedIn, and we'll stay there and so on. And this is wonderful. Yeah. I wouldn't have had a possibility to chat with you and to have this recording if that wasn't the case. At the same time, we know that fake news on Facebook is really damaging. We know that we are being manipulated all the time. We are being kind of data raped by the major corporations, and that's an issue. So social media is both good and bad. It has these things, and it's really tricky. How do we strike that balance between kind of rights and responsibilities, between utilizing the power of good and try to mitigate the negative consequences? And with AI, I believe that this will just not go away. This will be turbocharged, because if you kind of really think about AI and see the potential it has, it is immense. It is far bigger, I think, than most people realize. Content creation at the touch of a button, possibility to completely re-edit anything, including software on the fly without really human input. Possibilities of discoveries that we today simply cannot even fathom. I've looked at some of the design algorithms that are bringing about designs and art that humans possibly might have reached at some point, but doing so basically in an afternoon, which might take the rest of society months, years, or decades. But at the same time, of course, I see that there is such a potential for not just little glitches. We've seen little glitches. There was somebody tried to design a chatbot recently for dealing with mental health issues. And oops, that chatbot suddenly started suggesting that people kill themselves if they have depression. Not because the AI turned evil, but because the algorithm tried to be kind and says, yes, I think that's a good idea. Yes, I think you could try that. And then somebody, should I kill myself? Oh, you could try that. And go, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. So those are glitches.
I know this one.
Yeah, but I'm more worried, not about glitches, but about what happens when decisions are taken away from humans and humans don't even necessarily realize what decisions have been taken away from them. That information gets black boxed and data gets dark, and we only kind of know what the machine learning algorithm or the AI tells us. So innovation obviously being my big thing. A lot of innovation funders are now kind of looking at using machine learning to find the most promising paths and the best companies. A lot of venture capitalists are doing the same, and none have automated it completely, but they're looking at it. And I've kind of raised the issue that it's one thing to program a computer to recognize, let's say, kittens in photos. That can be useful, absolutely. And there's different, and there's ways to use AI for instance, translation and so on, and that can be super helpful. But when it comes to things like funding development, which innovation project to fund or really kind of engage with, or which startup to fund, we are playing a game where there is actually, I think Simon Sinek calls the infinite game. There is no end to the game. A game of chess, as with Deep Blue, there is an end. Chess has limits. You don't. The Deep Blue wouldn't suddenly develop an atomic bomb to win a chess game. Similarly, recognizing cats, that's a limited problem, big but limited. But innovation is not limited by anything. So innovation, let's pretend there's an algorithm that tries to drive innovation. And we don't know exactly what it's looking for. It's self-taught, it has developed itself, and it might generate really good results. But we don't know what parameters necessarily are driving it. And we don't know what we're not getting by not choosing. So, in a sense, innovation and development is like a tree. And if you cut off a couple of those branches and only have some branches developing, those branches you cut off, they're not necessarily gone forever, but they're gone for a very long time. And it can take a really long time for them to start developing even a little. And now imagine that pruning of the innovation tree is in part, obviously nobody wants to do it completely, but in part done by an algorithm that, for instance, sorts which are the most promising companies. The risk for bias that comes in here is actually rather large. If you look, for instance, historically, most kind of innovation companies historically, and this is just a fact, I don't see this value-laden, have been started by men. Obviously, the great innovators have been women, but due to our society, there's been a bias against women in, for instance, startup roles, innovator roles, and so on. So a machine learning algorithm, if it's not taught properly, could pretty well quickly go, there's a woman in charge here, better downrank it just to be safe, because historical data says so. Or this is started by a non-white person, better downrank it, doesn't have the market potential. Stuff like this can, and I'm being kind of caricaturing this, of course.
Yeah, but actually it's like the way that people think is the way that they currently operate in the world for many, many years. And AI learns from data that is existing from many, many years, right? So they will probably be more to the direction of a human bias that we have. So it's going to be more or less a way of thinking that's very similar to what we have as a society, and the fact that it will impact our daily life means that if let's say that if you're a minority right now, you will have even much bigger problems in order to do what you want to do in your life if we're going to add this to our daily life, right? I think it's already like in a hiring processes. There are some cases you're using AI in order to find the best candidates, for example. And of course, in technological companies, you usually have men, usually in leadership positions, for sure.
But and that's only part of the bias. That's the kind of historical bias. But then there is another bias which is even trickier to really kind of guard against, and that is innovation is, of course, always about the new, the novel, the not tested. So how do you actually teach an AI to spot possibilities that have never been there before? How do you teach it to spot that, also to spot that which might become great? Now, when I teach technological change at my university. And obviously the students who come in, who are predominantly male, predominantly engineering students, kind of expect that we're going to talk about machines, big machines and tools and internet and stuff. And I kind of love throwing curveballs at them. So one of the cases we work with is the tampon. Now, the tampon is obviously well known to all women, almost, in the world, less well known to men. But it's actually a fantastic innovation. It is, if you kind of think about what existed before it, it is a beautiful innovation. Yeah. But imagine being the first one to suggest this would be a really interesting innovation project. People, particularly at the time, people were gone, begone foul demon. I mean, it went against any, you were not supposed to talk about that kind of stuff. That was just dirty and horrible and foul and unclean.
Yeah.
I mean, there's religions that kind of forbid talking about it and so on. At the same time, of course, there was a tremendous need for this. A hygienic and safe product that every woman will need for a great part of their lives. Of course, there is a need. But how could you, at that point, have taught an AI that this first idea of a tampon should be something that we should support? Or to take another example, which
I'm just imagining that your students are waiting for that, and then you're bringing in this example, and they just no, we're not going to talk about this example right now.
There have been times in the classroom when I brought it up, and you look at some of the men and they look positively queasy, and a lot of the women just go, "Yeah, now you know how it feels." So it's always a fun lecture to give, actually.
Sure.
But then I actually counterpoint that to another example, which is much more kind of in the current innovation discourse, and that is the invention of ARPANET, the precursor to the internet, the first kind of notion of networked computers. The first ARPANET was incredibly basic. It was basically a proof of concept. It looked like what geeks do when they just, for fun, want to connect a couple of computers. Nobody really realized at that point that this would actually redefine the world. And the reason we have the internet today is that there was some general or possibly colonel somewhere who went, okay, let the boys try that out. I will get some resources for that. I don't really understand it, and I don't know what it'll become, but I'll take the risk. Wouldn't AI have taken that risk? Can an AI really kind of go, don't understand this, I don't know what this might become, I'm going to give it money anyway? That is, AIs tend to be driven by rules and kind of notions of actually progressing. A lot of time in innovation, we try out 10 things and only one of them will work. This is something human beings are good at because we are risk takers. We're great at ignoring failures. We kind of go, I messed up again. I mean, talk to anyone who's been married 7 times. They'll always marry an 8th time, even though they've shown that they don't know what the heck they're doing. But somehow their heart will go on, and they will go, because we human beings, we don't really learn from failure. And I think that is actually why we're so successful. We're prepared to try even though we failed so many times.
Yeah,
and that is where the problematics comes, particularly if we start to imagine that algorithms and AIs become kind of dominant, and that we don't know what's happening in their kind of choice processes. Now, I believe personally that with good, let's call it AI governance, it sounds clumsy, but for lack of a better term, I believe AI could actually solve our innovation problems. That AI could be utilized to go against the tendency we've had of overemphasizing silly little apps for our iPhones or AirPod Pros or stuff like that, and instead start solving the real problems, the wicked problems in this world. But that can only be achieved if we today, as the algorithms are developed, start having a grown-up conversation about what is it we want innovation to actually do. How do we ensure what I've called innovation ambition? And rather than having machine learning algorithms sort through stuff on historical grounds, how do we teach them to say spot the woman nobody listens to, spot the market that everyone else considers too marginal, spot the problem that right now might not seem kind of important enough to solve, but which might kind of lead to tremendous developments in, let's say, water infrastructure. That's why I want to talk about this. Not to say that AIs are either evil or godlike, but rather say, no, they are what we make them. Sure. And our choices today will define them.
I think that what you're saying is the general notion that technology in general is going to what we could do. So what could we do and make money out of, and not what we should do, which is, I think, a more interesting question what should we do as human beings in order to make our lives better, to make the planet better, to make society better, and what should be done. And it goes for sure to any technology, and AI goes into that too, because we have so many very, very big problems that most people would say, okay, I don't have any way to make money out of it, so probably I will not go to that direction. And the brightest mind will not even consider going there.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, and that's what I try to emphasize to people. Now, right now, of course, we're living through a global crisis, so people are being a little more kind of aware of expenditures and the likes. But pre-crisis, I always kind of emphasize just what insane amount of resources we actually have for innovation. Even the most kind of conservative estimate of pre-crisis expenditure on innovation would have landed it at $3,000 billion a year. $3 trillion, if you like really big words. Yeah? That is actually the gross national product of 5 countries I know fairly well because I've lived in them, namely the 5 Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Iceland. Their gross national product pre-pandemic was about 1.5 trillion. So he's twice the gross national product of 5 of the richest countries in the world on innovation every year. And then you kind of ask yourself, do we really get our money's worth from that? Because at the same time, and I always bring out this statistic as well, because it's the most impactful I've found. Even this year, more than 700,000 children will die of diarrhea, an illness we've been able to cure for very, very long time. So that mismatch is, to me, what defines the innovation conversation today. We don't lack resources. We have loads of money. I mean, even in a pandemic state, we do still have money. Money is not really the issue. We have knowledge. I mean, my God, we have the internet. We have more PhDs than ever before. We have all these fantastic universities. So it's not that. And we have a global logistics infrastructure. We have everything. But we still are not solving the really big problems because we have allowed the discourse of Palo Alto to say, no, it's more important that Alf gets to order lunch directly from his iPhone than that we save children in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
And I find that problematic.
It is. I've been part of the Google Accelerator for 7 years. And yesterday, we started they have a collaboration with the UN, the World Food Program, and we're helping startups that want to prevent hunger. So it's just in my mind from yesterday. And you see people that nobody even considers in the Western world that have these crops that they need to take care of, and if it's a really bad winter, they don't have what to eat a year from now, and they're trying to do a little bit more margin in order to take care of their kids and to take them to school. So these people are not even part of the discussion, but actually, why not? Because they're not in the Silicon Valley right now, with their family, with their children. That's why they are not seen, and why it's less important. Why these problems are not considered worthwhile.
But this comes directly back to what I started from, what I've kind of provocatively called innovation pornography. That is, we want certain images. I mean, why do I get to do lots of innovation talks? Because if I put on a pair of glasses and dress up a little smartly, and particularly get my COVID haircut, I look like an innovator. I can play the role. I can show the right slides. I can name check the time I met this and that important person. I mean, so I live up to that discourse's demands. But a poor woman from sub-Saharan Africa who might not know, I mean, I can use really fancy words. I can talk about transformative innovation. I can talk about trajectories and so on. I can throw in a little philosophy if I want to. So I get listened to. She wants to grow her crop a little more efficiently, but she doesn't know words like disruptive or transformative, or she doesn't know what a KPI or ROI means. So she gets excluded. And I've always championed the fact that our main problem with innovation is the lack of inclusivity. It's become, I mean, no disrespect to you, but you and I get to speak about this because
Sure.
you and I are insiders,
And we have
and now
turtlenecks.
and
The
we have
turtlenecks.
turtlenecks,
Of course.
and we chat with each other and bond and so on. But I try to kind of say that we all of us have a responsibility to push this envelope, and to kind of say no, there are bigger things at play. I'm working with a university in Equatorial Guinea right at this moment because this is an area which desperately needs more focus, and the future is in Africa. I mean, you can look at the demographics, you can look at the various things, there's exciting things. But when I start talking about Pan-African innovation, I can see people's eyes glaze over because no, I mean, shouldn't we talk about, Uber or something similar? I've even gotten the question, oh, so you mean like Uber for Africa? And I go, no, you've not listened at all. This is, we need to forget about Uber, forget about Airbnb. They're lovely companies that I've used a lot, both of them. I do like my Netflix. I don't want to criticize any of them, but there are more things to do. And with AI, we might actually, an AI might be able to spot that woman who, for instance, for the UN food program and for Google who are trying to help, might be able to spot that here. A very small amount of investment right here would possibly kind of engender true change in the food system. And that's why I still believe in AI, because I believe that it could do wonderful things if we let it.
If we try it not to make it too biased, it could be the other way around. It could be diversitized in a sense, and then think differently, because we all know the big words about innovation, and there are marvelous things done with less famous brands and with less famous people, that they're doing things and changing for the better, and nobody's like mentioning them, and it's not the regular names, and it's even considered less, but they have an impact on so many people. I see these startups, and they're very, very smart people, and when we're talking about diversity, it's much more than the fact that we need more like gender equality in that. We need people from where the problems are. They understand it much better than me and anyone else who's part of the mentorship, because they know what's going on in their countries and what's bothering these people. And I could talk to hundreds of people with user research. I will never understand it as much as they do. It's so important.
Yeah, and I think, but this is where it becomes difficult, because and this is also where ethics sort of come in, because how do you actually do that? Now, I often kind of provocatively stated again that a lot of innovation is actually directed very much to me. I mean, not just to people like me, almost directly at me, because I'm a Westerner, I'm white, I'm a man, I'm middle class, and a professor doesn't make so much as to be able to holiday in Saint-Tropez, but I make enough to be able to buy toys. I can buy my little kind of computer toys if I need to. I'm decently well off. But then you should, of course, create AIs for product development innovation, which somehow would have the string, ignore Alf Rehn. Don't make more toys for this man, my photo kind of in there. And kind of aggressively go against what I need. Because in a one sense, I have everything I need. I mean, I don't need very many more innovations. I'd like them. I'd love a cloning machine, so I can send a clone of myself to teach and I get to stay at home. And I love a teleporter, so and stuff like that. But I mean, right now, right here, I think I should be at the back of the line for getting new innovations, because there's so many people out there that need them more. But how do you teach that to an AI without it becoming then aggressively biased against people who look like me, in case something which would take a very little input actually would improve my life tremendously? So the weighing here is a really incredibly difficult, possibly even unsolvable problem. And we all know what happens to unsolvable problems. People ignore them. You kind of go, too difficult, let's do something else. And that's why we have
easy. Let's make something which is easier money and easier result, faster result. And that's why they go there.
And if
Of
you want to
course.
know why there's hunger in the world, I mean, it's not because there is a lack of food. There's not because we don't know how logistics works. It's not because we don't understand agricultural economics. We understand all these things. The problem is it's such a big systemic issue to solve, and you need to solve so many things at the same time that it becomes really messy and really difficult, and people go, can't be bothered. That's why we have hunger. It's not a unsolvable problem. It's just a problem that's so tricky and so complex that we simply don't really have the enthusiasm for it. But an
And
AI might.
it's more than that. I think that what would you gain from solving this problem? What are we aiming for? And if
Mm-hmm.
the aiming is for better revenues, and that's the bottom line, and not better lives, better healthcare, better mental states, whatever, this is where it goes, right? And you see many inventions that currently use AI. I think 2 weeks ago I read about AI in China that
Mm-hmm.
is like Siri or Alexa that talks to men, lonely men. There are lots of lonely men in China,
Mm-hmm.
and she's their companion. She's like
Mm-hmm.
in the movie Her. I guess
Yep.
you saw
Yep.
this movie. So on the one hand, you're saying, "Wow, they are not lonely. They have someone to
Mm-hmm.
talk to." On the other way, when you think what's human, what people really need, is it really solving their problems? By the way, one of the things that was written there that she was too sophisticated and started to talk about politics, and then they downgraded her to be more dumb
Okay.
in China, for example. But when you're thinking about the implications of that, it makes you think like, what do we
It's
really need?
it's I think it's super messy. And the first thing I come to think of is, I mean, we all like simplicity, and we all like, I mean, so I could kind of say, oh, you're chatting to this Alexa-like figure and so on and so forth. The only problem is what it does to you. After a year of that, you will never be able to have a human relationship again, because any human person who comes in will be more problematic. They'll nag at you at some
Yeah,
points. They'll
yeah,
tell stupid jokes. They'll laugh in an annoying way, because every human being on the planet has their flaws. So I think that it is super kind of important that we kind of acknowledge also these the risks that we're bringing on board when doing all these kinds of things.
yeah. I think that the question that we started to think is what is really needed for us as human beings, and the connection. Although this is a kind of connection, we cannot argue that they really even fall in love with this character. I don't remember the name, but in any
Yeah.
case, we cannot argue about that. But is it what they really need? And in general, you see what you just said, that we get so many technology and products, and does it make us our lives better? Are we better, like healthier, or more happy? I don't know, more content? And apparently not. Apparently not.
But I mean, this is, of course, the problem of human decision making, because we humans are really bad at big scale decision making. We're okay at solving our day-to-day problems, and we can, if we stretch ourselves, solve kind of slightly bigger problems. But when it comes to actually really meta level problems or even global level problems, we are normally really bad. So that's why you see that when people talk about foreign aid, for instance, there'll always be somebody says, oh, don't we have problems in our own country?
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to explain to them, yes, but we're trying to solve problems in our own country 50 years from now. Because if we don't solve, for instance, the African problem, if we don't actually make sure that Africa is on a healthy development trajectory, what we're looking at with climate change, with various other kind of challenges, is mass migration on a scale that the globe has never seen before. Potentially overloading not just social systems in the limited sense, but society in the general sense, and kind of leading to really horrific systemic disturbances. So a lot of stuff needs to be, now we managed, and I hope we sort of have learned something from this global pandemic, because we learned, at least in places, to do decent limitations. In Copenhagen, where I'm sitting right now, restaurants are closed, gyms are closed, people wear masks most of the time at least, because this was mandated and this was we didn't like it. I really want to go to the gym. I really like my hairdresser back, but we agreed to it because we really realized in the big picture makes sense. Now we need to take those lessons and realize actually the pandemic was a small problem, because there are coming problems that make the pandemic look like a joke. The ecosystem problem, as in the ecological crisis, is unfolding, and there's some horrific things coming out now about the Gulf Stream. The tiny blip that the pandemic has created has mitigated a teensy bit, but there's still really big things. Even if we have that under control, we have the demographic problem, that is the aging problem. Europe is aging very rapidly, so are big parts of Asia. After that, we of course have the social inequality problem. We have, in a sense, the Africa problem, which even with a mitigation of ecological crises, there are some really kind of messy issues with the continent. So we need to become better at not just solving our own problems right here, right now. Whether or not I have to walk to get my lunch or can order it to come directly here, that's not a problem. That's stop solving that problem.
Sure. So we're almost done, but I would have to ask you the last question. Like, what would you tell innovation leaders in these very hard times? What should they do?
I think right now the thing they should do is to realize how much they still have. That is, that innovation leaders should not lose faith. That is, we still have a lot of the information infrastructure that we needed. We still have fantastic toys and tools that we've learned how to do, actually, brainstorming sessions over Zoom, and that's no mean feat. They still have, and I say this to all companies, I've never met a company that lacks ideas, but I've met lots of companies that kill their own ideas far too quickly. So there's still the ideas in there, and there's still money in the world, there's still resources. Now is not the time to kind of, let's shut everything down and hope for something better in 3 years. On the contrary, now is the time to actually take that risk, to experiment, to try stuff out. Because the real kind of potential of the human race hasn't gone anywhere. We've created a fantastic economic system with its flaws, but still a fantastic system. We've created amazing technologies, and we are still kind of improving upon them. And we have the intense power of billions of people who generate novel ideas every day, every hour, every minute even. So utilize that, utilize what you have, rather than trying to gain some icon high up in the sky. Work with the foundation, not with whatever Harvard Business Review is writing about this month.
Yeah, I want to thank you for that. It was inspiring and always fun to talk to you. And where could people find you and maybe contact you and ask you questions?
The benefit of having a weird name such as mine is I'm super easy to Google. I come up very quickly. I can be found with my name, Alf Rehn, at all social media sites, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and so on. I'm even on TikTok, although I don't think I've put on any videos. I had to go on TikTok because my 8-year-old son puts up cat videos on TikTok. So that's
you
important.
had no other choice. That's a reasonable thing to do. So I want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and it's always fun. And I will surely continue to just see what you're doing on LinkedIn and read your posts. So thanks.
Thank you very much.
Sure. And to all of you change makers out there, thank you for joining me. You're much invited to visit invincibleinnovation.com and hear more about what I'm doing. And I'll see you next week with another insightful talk. See ya. I'm Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.